established.
It's a good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's Mr. B, your host. Today, look, we've got a couple of good friends, as usual, with us today to join us, Mr. Jim Goodall and also Professor Robert Bauer. Yeah, today's subject, we're going to be covering disclosure. It's been going on for the last couple of years, you know, with this in the US, with the Pentagon briefings and everything else down the track there. Personally, I don't see anything happening. I mean, all there seem to be stonewalling on a lot of things. And that only focus on UFOs. Now, we know they exist. Let's face it, everybody's seen one just about these days. And especially for the videos that's going around. Anyway, I'll bring on our guest, Mr. Jim Goodall. Welcome to the stream, Jim. How are you, mate?
I'm doing great.
Excellent, mate. And the man with the golden tonsils, Professor Bauer. How you going, Robert?
I'm going great, gentlemen. How are you?
Oh, fine, mate. I'm fine.
I'm doing great.
Anyway,
we finally had some warm weather today.
Wonderful. Oh, I mean, listen, man, you live on the edge of the friggin' desert. You should get some warm weather. Well, hot days and cold nights, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got some good sunshine and about almost 50 today. I'm up by the Four Corners, so I'm about 7 or so hours north of you, Jim.
Yeah.
Almost in the beeline.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, listen. Yeah, as I said, we're going to cover the subject today. Where are we going with disclosure? And look, honestly, I think they're giving us a runaround. I really do. I think they're distracting us. My personal opinion, they're distracting us. They're focusing on UFOs all the time, and I just see, well, hello, there's more important things. I mean, why can't we talk about, hey, what really happened at Roswell, or what happened somewhere else? You know, I mean, Roswell wasn't the only one, you know, but
well, there was Cape Girardeau about 6 or 7 years before that, right? And that seemed to have quite a bit of activity along the lines of material collection and eyewitnesses, and you know, this was a community. And then there's the Battle of Los Angeles. I mean, what was that?
Exactly. Yeah, all on film, mate. All on film, evidence. But yeah, what's the debate? That's the thing I'm getting at. Why did I have to go to Congress? And why did I have to stand there kind of, I mean, they're spending the taxpayers' money. I mean, it's not my money they're spending, it's your money they're spending. And, you know, and not just that, it's the media coverage as well, the cost of it all. And, I mean, why can't you just say, yes, there's UFOs. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Now, you know, that's the most important thing. What's the next question? And that's what they're stonewalling about. They know we've got a lot of questions to ask. And somebody is kind of, I think the date's going like that. You know what I mean? The backsides are going like that. And they're worried. They're worried because once they have to spill the beans, then you're going to say, well, okay, what's all this fuckery been going on about, you know, over the last 70 years, you know, excuse my language, guys, but that's the truth, you know. And Hey, Jim, I like your photograph behind you, mate. Beautiful. That's that bird you sat in all the way to Hawaii, isn't
Was it being delivered, right?
Yeah, no, it's getting ready to be sent off from Palmdale to Travis, RON there, then to Minneapolis.
All right. Okay.
That's the Blackbird that I was in the cockpit of inside that C5 at 33,000 feet at Mach 0.72.
Inside a plane. How do you like that?
Yeah,
Only Jim Goodall can do that.
and because the way things are today in the military, you'll never be able. No one will ever be able to do that again. Period.
So you are a professional scrounger. You told me once.
I was the unit
sergeant. The plane.
Yeah, I was the unit sergeant Bilko. General Schwab asked me, and this is years ago. He asked me if you think you can track down whatever it was. I said, sure. I said, well, if you do, don't tell me how you did it. Just can you get it? I said, sure. Piece of cake.
Right.
So
anyway, guys, before we kick, sorry, Jim. Oh, sorry, mate.
That's the best scrounge job that a senior NCO could ever pull off. A Blackbird and 2 C5s to move it.
Oh dear, mate. Yeah, only you can do it, mate. Anyway, listen, we're going to start off the show tonight with a bit of a trailer from a documentary, UFO Endgames. I think was it the Cousin Brothers that actually made that documentary?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So here we go now, and we'll it's a good key point to it because it does ask a lot of questions, especially when they show a particular person. A government person. Anyway, let's go here with this. Okay, guys?
Okay.
It's a mind-blowing situation. For the public, it's like, oh, a conspiracy theory, it's entertaining. But if you're actually in a responsible position and you find out that there's a whole secret government program that you don't know about, it's a shock.
This report comes from a shadowy Pentagon department that was shut down in 2012.
The disclosure movement has been hijacked by people parroting the narrative and the script being written by these black projects. I would say 90+% of everything that's going to come out is false.
The most widely seen UFO right now is not alien, it's actually ours.
It's a great cover story for all kinds of criminal activities. Blame it on the aliens, right?
If we are being visited by interdimensional beings, we should know about it.
This has the big disadvantage of the truth being much more unbelievable than the fiction.
It's the crash retrievals that are the Rosetta Stone for solving the UFO cover-up.
The implications of this is the difference between extinction level civilization versus one that's going to take off to the stars.
Well, how about that?
Ta-da!
Yeah, well, Jim, you're right. If they're interdimensional, we have a right to know. That's a fact.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a right to know everything. Everybody needs to know. You know.
I mean, we're not. If it's aliens, then exposing them does not give an advantage to our adversaries, whether it be Ukraine or China. I don't think Russians are adversaries, but that's my personal opinion.
Yeah. Well, see, look, I see things on a totally different perspective there, Jim. Like the money the government, I mean, not just the US government, the global governments of the world, the money they spend on things like space telescopes, radio telescopes, in search like SETI and all that stuff, I mean, they got billions to spend on things, but they haven't got money to look after vets, that are on the street, with one legs, and I mean, obviously what they're telling me is that the ET knows where we are, so they've got the home advantage. And I think this is the narrative is that they're doing all this quietly. They're searching for it, want to find out where they come from because, hey, they want an even playing field. I mean, okay, we can't get there. So they say we can't, but who knows what the black projects really have. But again, I like your thoughts on this, Jim. Can you hit it off, mate?
Well, you mean, first of all, if they were a threat, we would have been in chains 1,000 years ago. We would have never been able to evolve to where we're at today, technology-wise.
It'd be checkmate for sure.
Disclosure was millennia ago, and they've been here at least the whole time. Totally agree with you, Jim.
Hey, since the ancient Greeks, mate.
And Sumerians, and even probably the Atlanteans.
Exactly.
Well, I was watching a program last night on the was it
Göbekli Tepe.
I have my tongue just gets.
I had to say it 100 times before I even got the first part right.
Hey, when I moved to Honolulu, when I lived in Waikiki, it took me 6 months before I could pronounce Kalakaua correctly. And that's the street I lived on. Yeah,
I have trouble saying phenomenon.
Right. Yeah. No, if they're not from here, and they're not a global threat, which we would have known by now if they were, unless Hillary's one of them.
Yeah.
No, I just it's our right to know what we should be concerned with. If there's a global threat, if there's technology that's that's being used to visit us from other worlds or other places in the universe, then I think it's important that it has nothing to do with national security. If it's, and that's the Munkeneer or whatever you want to call it. They use, it's national security. Bull. 99% of what they keep classified is for power and for hiding money. That's it. There may be 2 or 3%, maybe up to 5%. Well, it really is national security. The rest of it isn't. Ben Rich told me, and again, I always lean back on my friend Ben. When I was in his office, and I was only in there twice in the whole time I knew him, but I was in his, I met him elsewhere outside of the Skunk Works. But he told me that they're here. And we should be allowed to know what our government knows when it has nothing to do with the Russians or the Chinese or the Iranians or whatever. Those are our potential enemies. I don't think someone or something coming from deep space, if they can get here, they can do whatever they want to do.
I think personally the biggest enemy are the dark people in the dark projects, the deep projects, the dark ones, they're the biggest enemy. Look, we only got to go back to the 1960s. We had Air America. The main transport was cocaine. They were feeding it to the American people.
They still are.
For the dark project. It's corruption within the government itself. But hey, no, right.
Hey, by definition, the government is corrupt.
Exactly, and we're getting the same bullshittery constantly over and over and over again. And so, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, there, Robert.
I've got a whole wide range of things because it starts with, I like the first principles thinking approach to getting to what I call the nut of the nugget. And when you look at anything, and in particular this UFO chronology and the histrionics around it, there's data sets in there that call out specific things. For example, every culture and civilization that we have found and interpreted has the same story. Most of them came from up in the sky.
Yep.
Some of them came from underground. But nonetheless, whoever they were, came and either at a minimum imparted knowledge, geometry, a natural physics, which ours current one doesn't represent at all. It's just a bunch of, to me, it's a bunch of men, math, models, and machines that they're trying to come up with these mathematical symbology. That was hard to get out. For describing reality, because that's all it does. Mm-hmm. And so there are equations based on, what they think and the way that they see things. I mean, Leibniz and, Descartes, I'm going to go down that path, stay on the UFOs. So if I look at the UFO narrative and I look at the content, the available information, clearly there's some history that was written down that is consistent and therefore must have some credibility at a minimum. You got peoples from all different parts of not only the world, but throughout time that had the same story. Now, it's
even on cave paintings. You know what I mean?
Well, and then that's part of the story, right? That's part of correct. the epistemology that the people have done. They've used stones, cloths, rocks, carvings, all kinds of different ways in which to communicate an idea, which is we were here and then they came down and did this to us. Everything from teaching and giving knowledge and information to actually genetically modifying them. So when I look at that and I think, okay, well, that seems to be our history. It appears that even in the theological texts, God came from up there and down here and dropped his dude and did his thing. Okay. The same thing with the Muslim religion and the theology. So there's this thing about somebody up there came down here and made us. Okay, let's start from there and then see how that progresses over time. And the interesting thing about first principles and looking at things objectively is saying, well, if there's a common thing here, then there must be something to follow and look at further. So as you look at it and you see it evolve over time, and you have all these new data points that accumulate as time goes on, and they've all got a very similar characteristic and narrative about these other beings. They seem to be, for the most part, benevolent, interested in our continuation in some way, shape, or form. Now, you can go to the negative side of harvesting, or you can go to the positive side of they truly want us to just be the best we can be, and they know it will take time, and it will take monitoring, and it will take occasional interaction. And so I think that element of the UFO thing and the extraterrestrials is the big secret that Greer's talking about in the new documentary. The secret that he's talking about is the black under the black, the black in the shadows, right?
Exactly.
And I think that he's got an excellent point about the big problem with disclosure, with more people coming out and saying something about, I know this, here's actual data. And that seems to be picking up steam on its own.
But I personally feel like, again, I mean, that's political talk, It's like, I believe, or I hear. It's not taking the responsibility of fact. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the problem with all of the constructs of the way that we look at society and the knowledge within it is going on today. And I'm talking about education, sciences, academia, media, any information, content creation and spread has been governed by the people who apparently have been running it. In fact, I heard an interesting idea of that, and it might have been on the documentary even, that Northwoods, the original CIA program to infiltrate all of the media and guide the narrative, all right, that was a thing that was true. And somebody's speculating that we're actually going through Northwoods 2.0 right now.
Yes. Well,
it would make sense to me.
Yeah, it certainly does. But now, Now we've got this gentleman that just a few years ago now, came out with the Tic Tac UFOs. we all know who he is, and I won't mention names. I bet you heard he's a very nice person. A friend of mine actually spoke to him at a meeting. He says, "Hey, he seems pretty genuine." But I'm a bit dubious with these career people with top Pentagon jobs and running departments. I mean, they don't just give them to willy-nilly people. You know, they actually give them to people, patriots, people who are serious in their job. They're career men. You know, they don't put them in charge of a department looking into UFOs and these threats and all that stuff.
Well, could you, Mr. B, could you look at it like this, that maybe, that's what their job was when they were there and what they're doing, but now they've repurposed them and they've found you're still going to lead the team, but you're going to go out there and do this.
Yes.
Because they're trained disinformation skills, it's persuasion and, convincing somebody to do something that they normally wouldn't do if they didn't realize they were being convinced.
Well,
I think to me that's kind of what Louis, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
I think
we know what we're talking about, anyhow.
Yeah, I think he was repurposed, and he was still working. He was still being supported and resourced, if you will, by his original employer. But the role was just go out there and do that now, because now there's that opportunity to use it. What do you think, Jim?
Yeah.
I mean, you have the same 3 or 4 faces that you see on any network, on any program dealing with, with unknown aerial phenomena, also known as flying saucers. Yeah. Those from that don't understand what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And they spew the same stuff. They don't bring anything new to the table.
Oh, they do. They mix it up. They like every time they bring out a different documentary, the format's different, but it's the same shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's SSDD, which is
same shit, different day.
Yep.
I mean, can you imagine how crafty and well skilled the people are now that polish turds? I mean, they've got to be this. They've either got it down or they're busting their ass and going to kill themselves at current course and speed because they are putting out some shiny turds.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, no, I'll say them, Luis Elizondo. I mean, he's a nice bloke, I've been told, as I said, but people are forgetting he is a trained. He's an analyst, counterintelligence.
No, he's counterintelligence, which is disinformation agent.
He's a paid liar.
Yeah, exactly.
Trained, and schooled, and that's why, to me, the whole. I mean, I think there's some of this, but I'd like to ask Jim what you think of this. So, to me, I've been watching and been a fan of this whole. There are other life forms. There are other vehicles. There are these other things. And I think it was Stephen Hawking who said, if the government has knowledge of aliens and are covering it up, they're doing a better job of that than anything else. Right. And so that's one of the things that when I look at it, I think, well, the documentary I loved because I love the format where it was, Greer just being sat down and talked. Now he had clearly, thought through these things, but I loved the clarity with which he presented his argument of this second layer of black, where and the one of the reasons that it's so risky for disclosure, and that is the fact that 90%, and I tend to concur with this, 90% of what's seen is stuff that we make. It's our stuff.
Yes.
10% are this long-lived civilization of probable creators who seem to, at a minimum, practice really good stealth, pop in and out now and then just to, it's kind of like lifting the skirt a little bit. But they have been, to me, it's just like paranormal. It's these, they are so stealthy in their ability to not be caught, although there's a shitload of evidence that looks like they have been caught. But you would think that if they were more prevalent, that you would see more of it. And even with, the fact that everybody's got a video camera with high res and high def on their phones now, you look at it and you go, there should be more. What I've seen is completely convincing. The fact that they don't get the coverage and the widespread exposure that they should is because of Northwoods 2, which is, if they're, I think Hawkins was right. They've been doing a really good job of hiding this whole extraterrestrial existence. There's no doubt in my mind that at least what it seems to this point from what we've had as evidence for the last 70 years is that these guys are helping us. They're not here to screw with us. They're allowing the leadership of humanity to have it go. Yeah, right. Or at least the what do they call it? The pretended. All right.
Hey, listen, guys. Just let me read a little bit of a list here. I'd like to welcome. He's not to the show, but he's watching the show at the moment. Mark Zeman, John. What's it? Letoza, and William Lobb. Thank you for watching, guys, and I hope you're enjoying the show. Anyway, back to you guys.
So anyway, my point is that I think there is clearly an extraterrestrial presence. It's been here for a long time, and I think it's still here. It seems to be purposely keeping itself at bay, and only comes in and kind of taps things when it needs to, like the whole nuclear evolution that we went through, where they started showing up and turning off missiles, and and making sure that we knew that they are paying attention to our systems. Well, it seems as though all that stuff from Eisenhower and even Truman, all of the time capsules that are starting to be opened, and there's the whole Nixon one, there's still the JFK stuff. I think that what Greer put in the documentary and posited that the real disclosure trouble is going to be that we have had this technology, and this technology could have completely changed all of humanity. We would be in a completely different place with what would be known as free energy, communications. Everything would be so different. Mm-hmm. But they kept that information from us. That, I think, is going to piss off a lot of folks.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, the truth is there. And obviously, what I like to know, what type of tech have they really got? Do we really have a secret space program? That's another story for another day. But then again,
the first one that they really talk around but don't talk about was the manned orbital laboratory. That was going to be the first manned spy satellite, so to speak, where it was actually crewed, and there was guys were up there. I don't know how long the mole was operational, but as spy satellites got better, they abandoned the facility, and I think it come crashing down in Canada, I believe. But
Are you familiar with that Operation Clementine?
I've heard the name, but I'm not familiar with it.
So that was supposed to be back in the Gemini days, I believe. And it was this high-powered camera that was sent on a satellite that went to the moon. And the pictures that were released just showed, not only the buildings, the crystal architecture, glass architecture, and a bunch of anomalies in space. And that was like a big deal secret back then, because they clearly didn't want to let any of that information out. But that's an interesting one, though.
Well, I've had this subject with Jim once before. Back in the 60s, they used to brag about how good their cameras were, and they can read up, was it 47 miles up, or was it something like that, or 150 miles up in the air. They can actually read the front page of a newspaper, somebody reading on the beach.
They had that capability in a non-classified form in 1962. Right. I had at Lowry Air Force Base in Denver, where I was permanent party. I went into the photo interpretive school. I was putting some equipment in, And in the hallway, they have an exhibit of aerial observations from balloons and airplanes and satellites and whatever. And there was this one series of photographs. It was all off of I think it was about an 8 or 10 inch negative. It was ejected from, it was either came from a U-2, I believe it's from one of the early spy satellites. And it was one frame, you could tell it's Moscow. You can see the Moscow River. You can barely make out Red Square. Next one zooms in. This is again off the same negative. You can tell it's Red Square. You can see the Kremlins. You can barely make out cars. The next frame, you can make out cars. You can tell if there's a sedan or a station wagon or a pickup truck or a lorry. And you can barely make out people. The fourth one, you see a guy sitting on a bench. He's reading a newspaper. Can't read what's there. The last one is zoomed into the 8-inch headlines in this Soviet-era newspaper, and you can read it. This is from 80 some odd miles in the sky in 1962, and it was declassified. So what do we have now that is classified as far as our observation capability? When the first shuttle went up, they were very, very concerned that they damaged tiles going up, and the tiles were critical for it coming back. They didn't have EVA capabilities yet. They were just going to go up there for a test ride and come back home. And they were very, very concerned. And the Air Force contacted NASA. You're going to have to take our word for it, but trust me, you don't have any problems with the tiles. And they started listing tiles that had chips off of or nicks off of them. And when they finally got on the ground after it landed, the tiles that they said that had small bits of damage were in fact exactly where they said they were. And the Air Force, they said, well, how do you know? And he said, you're going to have to take our word for it, but we know. It's like when we lost an F-16 out of Howard Air Base in Panama. It was a hero ride. It was a tech sergeant who was Airman of the Quarter, Airman of the Year, and he was down there, TDY. They were going to take him up for an F-16 flight. And they're supposed to be gone an hour and a half. That's about the length of time if you're not using tanker support. And the airplane never came back. And it was reported, people saw it at about 1,500 feet, just going straight. And the Air Force and the Minnesota Air National Guard said, well, maybe it crashed in the Pacific or the Gulf. And the Navy came back and they said, we're not going to tell you how we know, but absolutely nothing has crashed into the Pacific or the Caribbean or the Gulf in the last 48 hours. And they said, well, how do you know? And he said, we're not going to tell you. We know. And they had the sensors. And we can track stuff that people say, how in the hell did you know, these guys were coming or whatever? Because we have that ability in the water, and we probably have the similar ability in the sky. But we have capabilities that are far beyond what you and I.
Look, I totally agree, and I when I think of that aircraft that went missing a few years ago around Indonesia, was it somewhere like that?
Yeah, it was
Malaysian
flight 370. It's in a hangar in one of the stands. They painted it in British Airways markings. They've taken the transponder out. They've taken all the seats and everything
I've heard
out.
something about that, but I don't know if it's true or not.
Okay, all right. So Jim, now I gotta go here. So
you're starting to rub it off now. He's on his mark.
You open this door. I'm going to walk us through it.
Yeah.
So the 9/11 flights. The 9/11 flights. What about those planes? I mean, especially just the Pentagon itself. Was that a plane?
A couple guys from we had a C-130 leaving Andrews, and the cockpit crew, and I know one of the guys, he's since passed away, but actually watched the Pentagon get hit. and they they all they said it was a 757 that hit it. And I think and then also the one that crashed in Pennsylvania, that was shot down. I have a friend of mine, he's retired colonel today, but he was an AWACS controller on 9/11. They were having a briefing because the Iranians or the Iraqis or the Russians had shot down one of our drones. It wasn't like the RQ, the RQ-9 or whatever, but they shot down one of the drones. So they were going to wrap up the level of response. And they were about halfway through the briefing, and the wing commander came in of the AWACS wing down at Tinker. He said, the mission has been canceled. We may be at a state of war. We just ordered the shoot down of an American U.S. Airliner today in the East Coast. And all the guys were just dumbfounded. And that was the one that was lost over Pennsylvania. There were some reports early on, even on 9/11, when they had been listening to one of the guys on satellite phone or whatever on the one that crashed in Pennsylvania, saying, we're rushing the cockpit, and you could hear cannon fire. There's pop, 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 pop. I mean, just like a machine gun. You could hear it. Something was hitting the airplane, and next thing you knew, it crashed. I asked my friend who was the controller, and I said, "Is there any way you can that can be confirmed?" He said, no way in hell is it going to be confirmed, at least not to the general public, because the fact that an American military ordered the shoot down of an American commercial airliner. It was that one was going to make up for what the one that hit the Pentagon missed. They believe the one that hit the Pentagon was initially heading for the White House, lost visual track on it, and decided his secondary target was the Pentagon and hit the Pentagon. Now there's speculation up and down. They were trying to find out where a couple $1 trillion disappeared to in Department of Defense and whatever.
Well, it was just the day before that Rumsfeld came out and admitted that they couldn't account for $2.3 trillion they were missing in their budget.
It's here somewhere. Let me check underneath the couch.
Yeah, I know we got it here. I know we have receipts somewhere. Most of it might have been in cash.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
so the thing I find it interesting that, to me on that particular event, there are 2 of the 3 planes that are completely vaporized. Even the one that went into the building, into the trade center, it were still parts of it when the whole thing collapsed. But for both the Pentagon and for the crash with the Virginia side, it was just a crater. There was no parts.
I've been to a crash site of a large military aircraft, and there's not a lot left.
That's possible, huh? Wow,
and if there's fire involved, the fire is going to be intense enough it's going to melt the aluminum. Now there's stainless steel and titanium and other pieces in there that would be in the rubble that would be able to identify. Yeah, it was some type of machine that hit the ground here. But they also felt that there were 5 other aircraft were in the air with hijackers on board. But the junior air traffic controller at the Leesburg Center is the one who shut down the entire system. He didn't even go to his supervisor. His supervisor wasn't available, and he issued the order: all aircraft, military and civilian, are to land at the closest airport now. And they figured that they were going after the Sears Tower. They were going after probably Disneyland or Disney World. They represent America. And one of the places that was said to be a target is the wide body production facility up in Everett, Washington. And but no one's ever talked about it since. And which leads me to believe it's probably more true than not.
Yeah, bury it. Let's just bury it, but also too, I mean, back on the narrative here, it's like, okay, we're hearing all this kind of bullshittery going on with UFOs and everything else, and Luis Elizondo brought out the Tic Tac and everything else, and everybody's been raving about it for the last, I don't know how many times. Oh, it's over and over. It's the same crap all the time I'm hearing, and it's like they're really kind of trying to kill something, but what is what are they trying to steer us away from? What do they want us to what are they trying to take the focus off? That's the question I want to ask. What is it they don't want us to what path is it they don't want us to
they don't want us to know anything. So, as far as they know, they're trying to pull the wool over our eyes. And what they are going to tell us is going to be maybe a little bit of truce here and there, so we could lean on it.
So basically, they're stonewalling it. They're just kind of saying, just wasting our time.
Yeah, the rest of it's crap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I mean, it's a carefully crafted and curated what we used to call gruel.
Yeah, and they're coming out with this threat narrative. They've got threat narrative.
They've already cooked the other stuff, and it's all falling apart. And they're realizing that both their mixing and their cooking skills are crap. They have a souffle in their mind, and they end up with boiled water with shit in it. So there's such inept incompetence on display, and now it's to the point where they don't even care if it looks incompetent. They're still going to say it because there's going to be, they hope, enough people that'll miss the fact that they don't know what they're talking about. Anybody who's got expert or PhD or you name it, whatever you got stamped on the ass end of your name, you're now open to serious speculation, scrutiny, questioning, because they all have got it wrong. Everybody who's been an expert in whatever domain that they've carved out and said, I know this silo. Okay, great. What do you know? Well, I think this, and that, and it's because of this, and that. And okay, yeah, is it? I got questions on what you've shown me based on what I know, but what else is out there? Oh, there's people with all kinds of different ideas. There's different models and things. And the bottom line is, a lot of them are highly interesting. They're getting more interesting with more information that people are getting access to, and that information is stimulating curiosity, and that curiosity is now going into imagination. And people are going, "Wait a minute! I thought my world was like this, but it's actually like this." And look at this shit over here. Never seen that before. Wow! I thought that was completely wrong. Look, there it is. There's going to be a lot of that's going to be happening in the minds of people. They're trying to make sure that they mitigate that growth, in my opinion. They're trying to mitigate that growth as much as they can, because they know they can't stop it, and B, it's like its own contagion. As opposed to a forced narrative, it's more of a natural narrative. It's because it's common sense and reason and all that. So I'm spinning down the path here, but the point I'm trying to make is, I think that whatever control is being exerted over the information that they're keeping from us, those that have had that control are losing grip. They don't have the tight hold on it that they've had, because all this stuff is coming out exposing it. And the more that comes out, the more exposing goes on, the less credibility it has, and therefore you get to the point where people just, not only do they not believe you, but when you recommend things like locking down and all of these, forced medical procedures and all these things that have been crammed up down everybody's throat and up their ass over the last 3 years, people have went, well, that didn't make a difference, except it caused a bunch of bullshit. It was supposed to fix shit, but it caused more shit.
But what it did do, they won't be able to pull that crap on us again.
Amen to that. That's the other thing.
That was
Well,
a
we won't be
one-time
fooled
shot.
again.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, just to change, well, you hit a very delicate point there. I mean, I was reading the other day, stillbirths are up 500% since the inoculation started.
Mm-hmm.
Stillbirths up 500%.
There's been more young athletes die in the last 3 years than there have in the last 50 years.
But if you also notice too that heart attacks, cancer, and everything dropped by about 50%. Yeah, well,
I mean,
because they're dying of other things, aren't they?
how many cockpit crew members now are having all of a sudden cardiac arrest, health issues? They just had an instance in the last 72 hours where cockpit crew, where the captain died or was rendered pretty much he's just going to occupy that space. There's nothing, he's not going to help with landing the airplane or flying the airplane. The stuff I was, again, I got to get off my soapbox.
I hear you, Jim. I've been there,
Hey,
mate.
I danced on mine for a little while.
I wouldn't be surprised with the subject we're covering at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised if they send me back to Facebook jail again and again and again. But I don't give. See this face? This face doesn't care.
Yeah, I don't care. It irritates me, but I don't really care. I don't care what they think. That's one of it's sort of a benefit when you're told that you're going to die. You're not going to make it through surgery. And it takes about 36 hours for it to sink in. And when it does, I mean, it's like getting hit by a Mack truck. But when you come out of it, I mean, when I found out that I had a brain tumor, my chances of survival were going to be slim and none. And it didn't hit me for 36 hours. And when it did hit me, I was hysterical. It took me 3 hours to drive 4 miles home. I got home, I was just a puddle. My ex was just great about the whole thing. And about 3 o'clock in the morning, almost as the second hand came up to the very, very top, it was like someone changed channels on me. All of a sudden, I had a peace come over me. And it was, if this is the end, I have no regrets.
Well, it's going to happen to us all eventually, anyhow, Jim.
But I was 40 years old when that happened.
Oh,
yeah. So did it feel like? Did you have a sense of being separate from yourself?
No, but it was
just a peace.
It's just it was like there'd been a fog there, and the fog just lifted.
Awesome.
And I mean, I really don't give a rat's ass what anybody thinks of me.
No, mate.
Oh, I hate you guys. Well, good. You have a lot of company.
He's a wanker. You know that.
One less I got to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, and I really don't give a rip what people think.
Yeah, best way to be, Jim. Best way to be.
I've been there most of my life, but it was amplified when I found out I was going to die.
Yeah.
And then when I'm laying on the operating table, I'm at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. It's January 28th, 1986. Very interesting day. I'm laying there. Dr. Harner's checking my vitals. My pulse was 58, I think it was, or 52. That was 52. My blood pressure was 105/65. And Dr. Harner says, "Jim, you're not very nervous." I said, "Doc, I'm at Mayo Clinic. If you can't fix me, no one can. And if you fuck up, I'll never know it. Give it your best shot." And he says, "Do you realize going into brain surgery, a positive attitude is almost 40% of the success of the surgery?" And he said, when he hit me with the sodium pentothal, because he said, "We have about an hour and a half worth of work to do in you before we start the surgery." So I was under anesthesia for 11 hours. And when they took me off the operating room table, I was about 1% conscious. And I realized they were lifting me up. And I wasn't sure if it was a gurney on the way to the morgue or if I was going into recovery. I was hurting pretty bad. And then I got into intensive care. I helped myself into the bed. And I felt like 10 pounds of poop in a 5-pound bag. I mean, I was feeling really in my throat. And I used to have a different tone of voice, but I had a breathing tube down my throat for for 11 hours, and that affected my vocal cords. But I survived the surgery. And then I heard my first wife and I were still close, even though she's my ex-wife. And I heard, well, I need to tell him. It's really important. I said, well, okay, go tell him. So Shelley came up to me and she said, Challenger blew up on takeoff this morning. And I sat straight up in my bed. And the first words out of my mouth were the same as the last words out of my mouth. Holy shit. And he said, did an SRB fail? So, and it turns out that's what it was. And my brain was working. But I went dancing 13 days after 9.5 hours of brain surgery.
Wow.
I didn't do much. I sort of stood out there with my cane and sort of bounced around.
Oh, come on. I bet you were trying to pull off your best Michael Jackson.
I was trying to, but
Anyway, guys, just give us a sec. I'd like to give a shout out to Eva Bland. Glad to see you on board there with us, watching us there, Eva. And hey, by the way, you've got lovely paintings. Look, I love your style. So you just keep up the good work, mate. And also to Stephen Cole. How you going, mate? Welcome. I hope you're enjoying the show. And anyway, back to you guys.
Yeah, so I'm a free spirit, and that's why a lot of slings and arrows that are thrown at me, I don't care. I'm bulletproof, or they bounce off me.
I mean, that's life, isn't it? I mean, that's life. I mean, you can't please everybody, and it's like,
yeah. I mean, the hardest thing when I realized that I had to be happy was coming to terms with divorcing my wife.
Been there, done that. It's not a nice.
We had buried 2 children, so that's what happened to the marriage. And we're still close today.
Yeah.
I go to Minnesota. I bring my wife with me, and we stay with my ex-wife. Now that's an unusual arrangement. When Rosemary's ex-husband has been down here, he stayed at our house with his girlfriend. So it's when you don't when the stuff that's not important, when it doesn't bother you, that's when you're free.
That's true. That's so true. That is true.
I gotta turn my fan on. It's getting warm in here.
You do that, and by the way, Robert, what projects you've been working on lately, mate?
Oh, well, I'm working on a new tech project that's focused on blockchain and artificial intelligence and that kind of stuff, some of that new stuff, and working on some new vocal stuff. I've got my website up, and I've got most of my samples of my music and my voiceover and some of the different things that I've done on that. So just trying to organize, after a while, we all are old enough to know that after a while you accumulate a certain amount of stuff.
Yeah. It's called crap.
Yeah, hey, you do realize we work our lives accumulating shit, and then we get to a certain age, we're trying to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm doing a lot of that as well. So been very busy and enjoying all of it.
Yeah, I've been driving my family crazy playing I've been practicing 2 songs on the guitar. So I've been trying to get my fingers back working again, finger plicking, and of course I've been learning the song Hallelujah, and it comes over really nice on the finger plicking, and the other one was that Stand By Me, the old one, but I do it more like a country style, because I can get down to that deep voice, I can do it. Yeah, so that's where it keeps me. Hey, I've been driving my family absolutely crazy with it. They said, "Oh, here he goes again." I said, "What do you think?" Plus writing songs as well. So that's been and I've been lately been doing some intros for some friends. Man, thanks for your advice about that. I didn't notice I made a boo-boo on the actual.
My friend, I've been making content for 30 years, mostly music and audio, but video and all that stuff. And I got to tell you, if you're the one sitting there cranking it out, if you don't have somebody else look at it, you're going to miss stuff because
exactly
you've
right.
seen it so much that you miss it. This looks the same every time, and then you
that's right.
stop and you try to go, wait a minute, what is that? And that's for me being an autodidact semiotician and aspiring mathematician. At least I'm trying to do the poly thing because it's so amazing to look at that language, the way they use, as we were talking earlier. It's the language that's used to describe our reality, and you look at it and you go, well, I'm not sure I understand that, but I get the concept when you spell
You
those
know how I
symbols
do
out.
it? You know how I do it? I go, bullshit.
You got to have a good BS meter, as no doubt.
That's my reality. I kind of give that stare, not kind of look out in the space. Anyway.
Yeah. So I have been enjoying looking at. I'm looking back on the trail and the mess I've left behind, and I'm trying to figure. Well, I brought all this part of the trail and mess with me. Oh, and I got all this stuff I got to sort through and figure out what to do with it. Do you keep it? Do you pass it? Do you chuck it? Do you sell it? I mean, that's amazing amount of work that it takes to go into that thinking.
I know. And what about you, Jim? I mean, what have you got planned coming up? Any plans coming up?
Jared Murphy, Nikki Anna Jones, and 10 other people. We're going to Belize on the 16th of April. Right. We have access to a 7,000 acre parcel of land in Belize.
Wonderful.
There are known structures on it. The owner, the property owner, lives in Utah, but he's going to be down there at the same time we are. He's never allowed anybody on his property, and he's given Jared and our group the opportunity to come down there. He'll cut roads to where we have to go.
Are you filming it?
Yes, we're filming it both in video. I'm going to be doing stills. He said there's an area, it encompasses well over half the property that in the 40 years he's on the property, he's never set a foot in. He has no idea what's there. But there is at least 3 large structures in this one area. We need to raise money for the LiDAR to go in there. And I wasn't sure how well the LiDAR would be able to pick up stuff. And then Tom, I think Andrews' his name, I believe, he did the one at American Stonehenge. They're up in New England. And he had some stuff. I mean, you can actually see the entire inside of a building. I mean, the walls, the plumbing, everything. It's unbelievable. And isn't
that what they actually did something like that to the Pyramid of Giza or something?
They did something. I know.
They used, I think, some spectrometer at ground level. I don't think there's any aerial LiDAR.
No, this is done on.
Surprised if there wasn't.
This is done on the ground. You hold up a pole with a ball on the top of it, and that's where it radiates out, and it comes back in, and you move. You go to another point, you turn it on. It's fairly expensive to do. To do a good chunk of what we want to do is going to $15,000 or $18,000, and that's what we're trying to raise the money initially for, is to pay stuff like that. Once we've gotten in there, we've been able to video and shoot what we've found. I think it's going to be easier to get some funds headed our way.
How long are you going to be there?
2 weeks.
Wonderful. When's that happening, Jim?
Yeah.
If you need any experienced tech and just basic grip talent, let me know, because I would be more than happy to go and slug stuff to be a part of that.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm doing. I'm I'm going to be the gopher or the stick.
Right? You never have enough gophers.
No, I absolutely.
More the merrier. More the merrier. I'll join you.
and I think I have it at a minimum 30 years on everybody that's going. So I'm going to be the old guy.
Yeah.
But I'm going to have a ball. I'm going to have a ball. It's going to be fun. We're staying in Punta Gorda.
Yeah.
The property by boat is less than 20 minutes. By car to get to where we start walking into the place is about 45 minutes to an hour. By boat, it's only 11 nautical miles to where we can go up the river where we can be dropped off. And again, we don't know what we're going to find there. Hopefully, we're going to before we get there. Jared is trying to figure a way to pay for some satellite analysis, where you can go. Where he was showing an example of what you can do with not your Google satellite, but their satellite imagery. If that's what you do for a living,
you can go to like Global Imaging and the major satellite companies, and you can buy specific shots. Yeah,
right.
It's expensive, but you can do it.
Right. So we're looking at it, a few points that we want to, get a good understanding what's there. And those are the areas that we're going to focus on. And this is actually, this is opening credits. I mean, it's not even the main title of the movie yet. We're just, adding some bit players and some background information and whatever. But once we get there, we see what we have, and we're going to go to Snake Island. Snake Island is haunted, so none of the locals go over there. And John, the owner, said that he's been over there half a dozen times. There are Mayan structures on the island, but he's not interested in them. Okay, I am.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah. And so it there's probably he's clearing a small corner part of the property. I mean, was it 7,000 acres? What, a couple square? It was what, 10 or 12 square miles?
Yeah, you've got 720 in a square mile. Yeah, so that's like 10 square miles.
Yeah. So we have
that's a lot of clearing, man.
Oh, absolutely. That's why we're going to be really selective, where we go as far as him making bringing a road to where we're going to, close to where we want to be. But he cleared some land for a mahogany plantation.
Right.
I think he's planting 10,000 trees. But he said he had to go down almost 10 feet out of the roots and everything else to get down to to actually soil to plant the mahogany trees. So we're going to and some of the overburden is so heavy that the trees can't grow. Nothing can can attach itself because it is mostly air. It's like
air and roots and trunks and just stuff. The ground is covered from the images I've seen, and you gotta bring some kind of skip loader or something in there to start just move shit.
Oh, they do. I mean, he has the equipment there, and he's more than happy to. You tell us where you want a road. You tell us what you need to have cleared.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and we don't know what we're going to find. We may. One of the things that Jared is very interested in, and he's focused on, is the soils underneath these structures. Apparently, they're specially made soils. They dampen or absorb geological movements such as in earthquakes.
Well, most of these old structures, they found that there's a lot of mercury underneath them, apparently.
Chichen Itza or
usually. I mean, I'm not saying there is, but I mean, but they have found a lot of mercury under these structures.
And you've got it in the pyramid over in China for the emperor, where they found all of the terracotta statues that were buried. That temple there, or the mound, the pyramid, is the tomb, and the legend is that it's just this incredible, elaborate, as you would expect from Chinese artisans, just incredible remake of what's supposed to be the sky and the universe on the ceiling, and then the emperor's his little fiefdom with a flowing river of mercury around it. And so they not only do they not want to go into it for whatever principles archaeologically or culturally or from a heritage perspective they're holding, but the main reason apparently they don't go in is because of that mercury.
Right.
I mean, I used to play with it. I don't know why. That's why I don't know why I'm not dead. My father brought
Now
home,
that's why you had a brain tumor, mate.
yeah, well, probably. My dad brought home when he was teaching at Stanford. He brought home a 5-pound cask of mercury. It was triple distilled mercury. And
So it was solid. It wasn't liquid.
no, it was liquid, but it was in almost like a white lightning type of jug, but it was a small jug. It was about 6 or 7 inches in diameter, and it was like a crock, but it had a handle on it in a small spout that you put a cork in. And we used
what did you use it for?
Well, we used it just on, doing silly stuff out in the backyard and probably killing plants and, and stuff. I mean, I wasn't that old.
Hey, sorry guys, I hit the wrong button, but it's good to bring this up. Our friend John Yost was on it at UFO Con the other day, and they actually played his documentary. So he was the toast of the evening. So I hope you don't mind me just cutting in here. Didn't expect it to pop up straight away, but
no, that's fine. Looks interesting.
It changed me.
Funny thing about this, when I first found out, when I first met John, never seen this trailer before. I've actually seen the full documentary. It's wonderful. And I was telling John about my abduction, and he says, "Oh, you got to watch me movie," and I didn't know why until I saw what he saw.
This was
because
something
I described
that I kept
exactly what
buried for years.
What he's seen, and
strange things.
After I watched it, the first words I said to him, "You're a wanker, aren't you?"
I didn't want anything to do with it anymore.
I knew you were telling the truth.
He came out,
the same
and I
thing.
fought for my
It comes
life.
up now. What it should do.
Ships started to pop up in the sky.
And there's this bizarre disk of light. It is moving across the sky very fast.
The experience
That
is
creature,
often
the glowing
very
creature,
terrifying.
that's exactly what I saw when I was 7 years of age,
hoping
right?
that it would go away,
Exactly.
whatever it was.
4.5 feet tall. It was about my height. And
I know that we were put in that craft.
I was seeing that twice a year towards the age of
And
13.
the being was right next to my face.
He saw 2 shadow beings. That's when
I mean,
felt like
I've
was
been
gonna
out by
die.
the Black Mailbox in Tippecanoe Valley, east of Area 51.
I had a real encounter with something. Even
And
if
I
had
sat
to
there
live
and
in
I
fear,
thought,
is to
I said, okay,
know
if you
the
can read my mind,
is to know.
abduct me. And so far they haven't that I'm aware of.
But sorry about my bad timing there. I actually thought I'll bring it up, but it started playing on me straight away. And
Yeah, we've seen the hook before. We know when it's time to shut up.
just my senility. I mean, when you get my age, I mean, your brain's gone away with the bloody fairies. My wife has to remind me to eat.
Well, just throw some berries in your diet. Hey Jim, when is this trip? You said in June?
No, April 16th, less than 30 days from right now.
April 16th. Wow.
Yeah.
So the weather down there is going to be.
This is a good time of the year to be there.
Really nice, I think. Yeah.
And I went into REI to see what I'm going to need, and I see this young guy who works there and said, "Hey, I got a question, and see if you can help me." I said, "Sure, I'll give it my best shot." I said, "I'm going into the jungles of Belize here in a month and a half." And he said, "Well, I just got back from Belize. I was in the jungle." So what do I need? He said, "Well, you need this, this, and this." So that's what it was just, timing was just perfect. So I got everything
That's awesome.
I need.
So you got a hat with a fly with a mosquito.
Well, they say
Yeah.
the mosquitoes right now are not bad at all.
Yeah, but what about when you go down there? That's
Well, he said through the time we're going to go back to this, they're not really that bad yet.
Oh, that's good.
It's
Oh,
later
well.
on during the summer when it gets.
You just take your spray, mate. You know, bug
And,
spray. You'll be all
and
right.
he said you spray your clothes. He gave me some. I bought some stuff. You spray your clothes. It's good for about 3 or 4 washes, and it will repel any mosquito. And then I have some stuff I put on my exposed skin. He said when you get back to civilization, you're going to want to wash that stuff off because it is pretty strong. And he said, and then you put this other stuff on, so when you go to dinner, they're going to stay away from you as well. So, and he said we're going to need boots because it is sloshy out there as they cut the roads. As the ground is damp, and that's what you get for being in a rainforest. So. I don't know what all I'm taking. I'm taking everything I need. I'm paying for it, so I'm paying a big, huge suitcase with the stuff.
Did anybody mention iodine or ivermectin in your little kit?
No, there's going to be a doctor with us.
Okay.
One of the members is an emergency room doctor, and it's not Greer, but it's somebody else.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, sorry. Don't stop me on that one.
Well, that sounds amazing. I mean, next time you have one of those, keep me in mind. I'm a great geezer grip, and I can slap them with the best. So
this is going to be an ongoing. This is just chapter 1. Well, this is only the introduction. We haven't even hit chapter 1 yet. That will be on the next trip. And we're going to document everything. We have 3 of the people that are coming are sort of tag-alongs. They're not part of our group, but they're going to be with us. And they're underwater videographers. And
right, okay.
There are pyramids under the water right off the coast. And
I'll bet you'll be taking your camera, mate. You'll be, Jim will be out there going click, click, click.
Yeah. And they said they'll share everything they get underwater. They'll share with us for the documentary.
Excellent.
Plus, we're going to be going over to Snake Island, and we're also going to go to some pyramids that have been excavated. Tourist type areas. We'll do that probably on the 17th. I come in on the 16th. Jared and a couple of people are coming in on the 15th, and we all leave on the 30th. So it's.
Well, seriously, keep me in mind for the another round, and then whenever you do it, because that's the kind of thing that I can sink my stuff into, and it would be an honor to be involved in something that like what you're doing. It's down there, and I think the whole Mesoamerican history. And you may have seen the LiDAR that they recently did over most of Guatemala, and they found some 60,000 unknown buildings, right?
Yeah.
And temples, plazas, roads. I mean, the whole 9 yards. So I think that where you're going in Belize, that's right on the bottom side of the Yucatan, right, of the peninsula,
right on the
Gulf, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that whole area, if you can get that LiDAR going and shoot that, it's just going to make everybody go, okay, we need to do more of this. Looky what's down there.
Yeah.
But as soon as you find something, you watch, mate. Everybody want to be going down there. You watch. It's like it'll just be like a stampede. I mean. They'll probably clear all the land for you.
And the hard thing now is like say trying to get people who are interested in help funding us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now I have I just put it up yesterday, our GoFundMe page. Jared put that together and looked it over, and we'll see if that will get us something.
Well, if you can drop it on my page there, Jim, you're more than welcome to share it on my page.
I will do that right now. Make sure I have your email. Yeah, I do. Okay.
You can do that, and I'll put it on my page. And
yeah, that just sounds like one of those. Whoa, a friend of mine that I've known and worked with for over 30 years is currently on a 2-week trip on the Amazon River.
Oh, how fun!
And I said, I'm going to tell him when he gets back, because I found out after he left. I'm going to tell him when he gets back. Next time, you need to bring me along too.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that whole, like I said, the Mesoamerican, South American, Northern, and up into the Mexico and the Southern U.S., kind of seems to me like there was most likely a massive civilization just on a scale that the current thinking just couldn't even put in the possible bucket. And that most likely whatever reality and potentiality of an Atlantean civilization exists, that I think that it's probably here in that Mesoamerican region, Southern U.S. down to Northern South American. I mean, because all of the cultures that are there are unknown. I mean, they call them the Incas, they call them the Olmecs, they call them, all these different names, but that nobody really knows. Those are all names that were given by the people who found it.
Yeah. Oh, and
right?
Terry, I just sent it to you you should have it.
Yeah, I'll see to it after the show, mate, and I'll set it up. Terrific.
So, to me, any exploration in that region is the chances of it finding stuff, especially if it uses, the kind of telemetry and intelligence and technology that we've got now, you can narrow it down to, you're not just going to go bushwhacking and hoping you hit a building. You're going to know where the building is, and you're going to bushwhack right to it.
Yeah, and that's what the LiDAR is going to do.
Exactly.
And the satellite imagery, they're going to be looking for structures, and they can go through and select what kind of reflectivity issue, whether it's limestone, whether it's concrete, whether it's granite, whether it's foliage or.
Hey, Jim, I'm sure you must know people in the military that can use some of their fancy satellites with the high tech. While you're cruising over this area, can you just
call in a favor, a chip or two?
but they're all retired.
So
yeah.
I used to have friends everywhere.
Yeah.
And I don't have them much anymore. But I'm gonna hopefully get some new friends sometime this spring. I'm gonna do a book signing at Air Force Plant 4 or Site 4 at Air Force Plant 42, which is the B-2 and the B-21 production facility. They are ordering my B-2 book and my Blackbird book for all their stores.
Nice.
I listen. I will be ordering a book off you. I'll get in touch with you about that, Jim. But I want a signed copy of you. So
I can do that.
Yeah, I'll organise that later on. So no worries.
So that sounds like that might be a gathering of some connected folks.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah, because I told. I mean, this is the head guy. He's been at Northrop for 38 years. I said, any chance of getting a peek at the B-21? He said, nope, not unless you want to get shot. But I'm going to hand my card out to everybody that I see, and I told Lou. I said, when the word goes out that we're going to have a book signing at Plant 4 there at Palmdale or Site 4, regardless of whether you bought where you got my book at, if you have any books by Jim or James C. Goodall, bring them. I'll sign them all.
Nice.
And
beautiful.
And he's ordering. I mean, all their location, everywhere that Northrop Grumman has a facility, they have a gift shop for stuff about Northrop Grumman and their products. So it could be a very, very large order of B-2 books. I brought one with me when I went to get the tour of SpaceX last month, I brought a B-2 book that was damaged in shipment. The top of the spine was crashed a little bit. It wouldn't be a good gift, and I couldn't sell it. I could have sold it, but that's not something I would sell. But I was talking to the gift store manager, and I said, you don't have anything on the B-2 here. I said, yeah, we could really use something. So I took my B-2 book out. It's 160 pages, all color, covered everything from the the NR1. Yeah, not the NR1. His original flying wing, the one that's air and space today. Yeah, the M91, I think it is, or M19 or whatever. I mean, she got all excited. She says, "Well, do you need the book back?" And I said, "No, it's yours. Send it to your boss." So she did. I got a call the next day. He said, "Mr. Goodall," said, "we love your book. We'd love to order a bunch, but I'm going to have my boss get hold of you." So her boss got hold of me. We talked, and we have a lot of things in common. He said, "I want to order a whole bunch of your B-2 books, but I also want to order your Blackbird book." So we had nothing to do with the Blackbird, but if you love airplanes, you're going to love the Blackbird as well.
You got to have the set. You got to have the set.
Yeah. So I'm going to bring a box of cards with me. Every one of my book is going to have a sticker. I have. I put these in my, they're self-adhesive. They're my business card, but I put those on the inside of the, the front, the front of the book, and that proves that I sold it. It doesn't make a difference, but this is the way I can, I know.
Yeah,
if it has,
it's an original. Yeah.
Yeah, if it has that in there, I sold it to somebody at some time. But I'm hoping that the men and women that I signed the books for, and I'm just assuming that it's going to be real popular. That's basically how I started and got my toe in the door at the Skunk Works. I did basically a lot of the same things. But instead of capturing a lot of employees, I captured Ben Rich, and I still to this day, I don't know how I got on his list of favorite people. Now I could call him up. June recognized my voice. I said, "Mr. Rich's office." I said, "Hi there." "Oh, Jim, it's Mr. Goodall." I said, "Just a second, I'll connect you with Ben." And he could be in a meeting with engineers. He put me on speakerphone. We talked for 20, 30, 40 minutes. And you can hear guys talking back and forth. And it wasn't until later that I actually met him in his office there at the Skunk Works. He said it used to be Kelly's office. And he said, and this is back in the 70s, by the way. He said, that there was always speculation that we made a lot of single place Blackbirds. So he goes into the storage room off his office. He comes out with a 20 by 30 frame print of the 8 A-12s and the 2 YF-12s at the far end. He said, just to show you that there's more than one. And I went, "Oh my God, I want to take a look at it." And he just immediately brings it around the corner and puts it back in the closet. Oh, shit. And then about 10 days later, I get a manila envelope from the Central Intelligence Agency and said, "We were going through our files and we found some old photographs. We thought you may be interested in them." And it was the 10 airplanes lined up there at Area 51, some stuff in the air, the MD-21. And so I got 6 or 7 photos from the CIA. They just happened. And I don't even know how they got my phone number or get my address because I wasn't listed. Jeez. It was like when I went to photograph my airplane that's sitting on a pylon. They took the A-12 we had in Minneapolis, the one that's behind me, fully restored, the only complete cockpit in an A-12. And they came in over the Thanksgiving, Christmas timeframe is when they sent the letter to the wing. You have 60 days to protest this or fight it. And of course, 45 days of it was over the holidays. So they did that on purpose. But they came out with a booklet on the A12, on thing called Archangel. And you open it up, and the first photograph is my photo. They're taken from atop the alert hangars at Minneapolis. No photo credit.
I was going to ask you that.
I called a buddy of mine, Jim Stevenson. He did the book, The $6 Billion Misunderstanding, the story of the Navy A-12. And Jim has a law degree from Harvard, but was never an attorney. He just likes law. So I called him up. I said, hey, I got a question. The CIA used a photo of mine, did not give me photo credit, and didn't ask my permission. He said, oh boy. And I said, what do you mean? He said, you can charge them up to $37,500. I said, okay. So I sent the CIA a bill for $37,500 with a photocopy of the page. And I said, this is my photo, no photo credit. You didn't ask my permission, and it's copyrighted. I get a nasty gram from CIA legal. He said, well, we could have bought this thing for $400 from a stock photo place or got it from Lockheed for nothing. And I responded, if you could have, you would have. Said that photo has appeared in 10 publications, including the Wall Street Journal. Because we had an article written on the Air Force Museum and the CIA stealing our A-12 over the holidays, and that even had that little funny circle with the C in it.
Copyright, yeah.
So I get a call from Mr. Levine, the chief legal counsel for the director of Central Intelligence. Now, you don't get much higher in the food chain than that guy.
Right.
He said, Mr. Goodall, after looking at your supporting documents, we realize the photo is in fact yours. And we apologize for not giving you photo credit or asking your permission. But I can't agree to $37,500. I'm thinking to myself, well, offer me $500, I'd be happy. And I said, but I didn't say that. I said, well, make me an offer I can't refuse. He said, $5,000. I almost wet my pants, but I didn't. I said, with one additional request. I said, what's that? I said, I want to be able to come onto the grounds of the Central Intelligence Agency with my camera and photograph my A-12. I want to be able to walk 360 degrees around it without restriction. And Mr. Levine said, we'll have to get the okay from the director of Central Intelligence. So I get a call. This is February. I get a call early March. And he said, you have the okay. When do you want to come there? Where do you want to be there? And I was scheduling a trip to go out there to see a friend of mine. I said, April 22nd. He said, okay, we'll be ready for you. So I fly into Washington National. A buddy of mine picks me up. I'm using his car. It's not even a rent-a-car. I drive up to the main gate at CIA. As I'm rolling down the window, the guard said, Mr. Goodall, welcome to CIA. I haven't even showed him any ID. So, oh, those sneaky bastards.
They saw you coming.
Said, here's a plaque. Put it on your dash and go and just follow the road around the building. You'll see it saying says DV only, distinguished visitor. Okay. So just park there. Leave your stuff in in your car when you go in. So I left my cell phone in the car and my camera in the trunk. And as I walked into this huge atrium, the guard said, "Oh, Mr. Goodall, welcome to CIA. Michelle will be right with you." So I'm there just sort of. It's a big empty place with really nothing to look at other than the stars with no names on it. And all of a sudden, this dropped dead. Absolutely incredibly gorgeous blonde in me high heels in a red suit
Very graphical, isn't he?
Oh, Mr. Goodall, I'm Michelle. I'm the public affairs officer. They said, no, I said, you must be somebody special. I said, I think so, but why do you ask that? And he said, you're the only civilian that I've ever, it's ever been approved to come onto our facility and take pictures. And he said, I've been here 21 years, 22 years. And I was the first one. Yeah, they've had government photographers, CIA photographers, and whatever, but not just Joe Blow off the street.
You were the first six-pack citizen allowed in, huh?
Right. And so we went in first, and we went down the hallways and we're on the first floor. I think the spook stuff is either above or below. And they have, it's like a museum as you walk through the place. And all sorts of spy stuff from the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s. I mean, it's really incredible stuff. They were really quite good at it. I meet with Mr. Levine, and just a nice guy. I was hoping the check would say Central Intelligence Agency, but it's a government check. That's all it was. Because I would have
framed it. Yeah,
I would have hung it up in my office. And so then I signed some papers. He said, "You'll get the check in the mail. By the time you get home, you'll probably have the check there." And so Michelle said, "Well, let's go grab your camera." So we went to the car. I got my camera. I'm walking with it. I have it around my my neck. As I'm walking by people are looking at the camera and looking at Michelle like, is this guy? He has a camera. And then I did a complete walk around. It was a gray day, but it's a black airplane, and you actually get more detail if it's.
So was it outside or inside the building?
It's on a pylon outside.
Right.
In like a courtyard or something, or
the main the main VIP entrance. You can see it on Google Earth if you go into the agency.
So what's the secret?
And somewhere, I'm going to see if I have any. I thought I had something here. I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to go in and get something, and I'll show you I'll show you one of my photos. So
the long story short, you got your IP was validated. You got compensated for it. Where was it? Where did that 37,500 figure come from? You said that was by law or something?
Yeah, that's written in the statutes.
In 76 they did the Digital Copyright Act or some shit like that, where they changed the rules, but basically by adding the fact that there's digital copies of stuff.
Yeah. Here's my airplane. Oh, shit.
That's the one you took pictures of.
There it is without me.
Wonderful.
And they let me go, walk all the way around it and shoot it.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it just tickles it. I'm gonna just drop my mouse. Hold on.
Does it have a plaque or anything? He's got his headset. That's a beautiful plane, isn't it? Can you imagine flying that, B?
Mate. That'd be a buzz, wouldn't it? Eh?
Would
be a buzz. Honestly, that's it. So, what Mach does it fly at?
That one temporary during flight tests during envelope expansion. Jim Eastham was the pilot, and he was in real warm air, which is not good. What's real critical is the compressor inlet temperature. You're redlined at 427 degrees C. And they were just having trouble. And so Jim said he put the nose down. And when he put the nose down, he started accelerating. And all of a sudden he hit good air. And he redlined everything. And he immediately went into the descent profile to head back to the barn. And for about 15 seconds, the airplane was at Mach 3.56, which is 2,391 miles an hour. But that was for 15 seconds. The airplane, the inlet is designed to fly at Mach 3.24.
And what's the altitude on that one?
92.5, straight and level.
Okay, that's
50 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not that far away from orbit.
No, and
So it makes you realize what's available, what's got to be available today, which we do not know.
yeah, and everything was designed with slide rules. There were no computers back then. I mean, I have a computer card out of their autopilot. I mean, it is so dense. I mean, you can't slip a piece of paper or a toothpick in between a lot of the components. But it was 4-bit technology.
Right.
That was, I mean, look what we went to the moon and back with. I mean, it was an 8086.
Yeah, that was 8-bit, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, a smartwatch has more bloody technology in it than what they had.
Oh, the smartphone today has more than a Cray XM1 supercomputer back in the day when they first rolled it out. But
yeah, there's that famous shot of they're rolling out the 10 meg hard drive from the street up a ramp into a big truck.
Yes,
and it's like I think it was close to 5 feet square, and there's guys, and it was 10 meg hard drive.
Yeah, I was.
It makes me wonder, but then again, doesn't it make you think? I wonder. I mean, with crashed UFOs, I wonder how much they're not telling us of what they've actually got in the latest planes of.
What did Ben Rich say, Jim, about that? We've got enough tech. We got the tech to do what?
We have the ability to take ET home.
Exactly right.
And that was in the mid-90s.
Yeah. Just think about that statement. We have the ability to take ET home. This is 1993 or 94.
Yeah.
He said that. So it's 30 years ago. And he said, but our government will not allow us to make the information public.
Well, it just goes to show, doesn't it? I mean, just look how the cell phone evolved over the last, say, 30 years. I mean, the first one came out was like a brick,
Right, and you needed a power pack battery, and
exactly.
That's the most expensive part of the entire cell phone is the battery.
Well, the first transistor radio came out, had 4 transistors in it. Now we've got a phone which has got over 28 million transistors in it. So just tell me, how far have we advanced in aircraft? And is it actually confined to the atmosphere, or can it
go
beyond the atmosphere? That's it's
again, to quote Ben Rich on my last conversation with him about 10 days before he died. I think he died in 96. He said, Jim, we have things that are 50 on the desert, and he wasn't referring to Area 51. But he said, we have things out in the desert that's 50 years beyond what you can comprehend. Not what you think can build in 50 years, but what you can comprehend. And I can comprehend a hell of a lot. And if you've seen movies like Star Trek or Star Wars, we've been there, done that, or decided it wasn't worth the effort. And that statement right there, this is from a man. If anybody that I have ever encountered or even knew the person's name would have information to be able to say that with confidence, and it's true, wouldn't it be Ben Rich?
Yeah, and this is what's happening. The narrative now with disclosure, they're trying to steer us away from all that information. They're steering us into a different direction. They don't want us to focus on that. Yeah. And that's the thing. We have too many questions to ask.
I asked Jeff Babion, who is he's retired now. He was the vice president, general manager of the Skunk Works. He was the 10th boss of the Skunk Works. And I've met 6 of them, by the way. And they all, the only one that was crotchety was Kelly. Ben Rich knows where everything, he knows all of it. And when he says that, I have to believe that he's that he's not feeding me a lot.
So one of the easiest things, at least in my little pea brain to have as an imagination, is let's make sure that at least we explore and establish bases where logical on all the planets in the system, because that technology means that the whole idea of using, combustible fuel and the chemical fuels that we use now.
It's caveman stuff.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you should be using the etheric fields, the magnetic fields, which is what I think all this stuff is based on. It's some kind of plasma. It's an understanding of physics that ours, at least in the published knowledge of physics, is just totally inadequate to explain the phenomenon, the things that we're seeing, which means to me that they've hidden all the good shit since they found the good shit. And that by itself, to me, is criminal.
But how does the patenting office work?
Different than it is now.
How does patenting office work? I mean, here's the U.S. Navy. They had his patent put into the office there of the TRB-3.
It's another government institution, regulation, and authority that is broke.
But I'm
just
pretty
like
sure
all the rest
you
of
can't
it.
put a patent in if it doesn't work.
I mean, the story of Einstein and the patents, right? I mean, he worked in the patent office, and there's credible evidence that a lot of the ideas that he used to come up with his theories, he found in other people's patents. And there's a number of very interesting conversations about what he in particular either did or was credited for. But nonetheless, I mean, you've got Keeley, Tesla, Walter Russell, Heaviside. These guys did some amazing shit, and we're all focused on free energy from the ether and had demonstrable working expressions of it. And then you have, a number of different inventors. One guy built, not only did Henry Ford make a car out of weed, a weed mobile. The whole thing was made out of hemp, and it was stronger than steel and lighter than steel, and it ran on hemp oil. It's like, I mean, why didn't we take?
Okay, we're going to 10 miles.
Be sitting there like Cheech and Chong at the stoplight going,
Actually, that might be another subject we could pick Science Bob's brain with next time we have him on.
Yeah, I was at Patrick Air Force Base. And my roommate had brought a whole bunch of weed with him, and we had smoked it on our way to the movies, and we were wasted. And we're going in, and it's Cheech and Chong Up in Smoke. I've seen it 3 or 4 times.
Oh,
and
awesome.
I didn't realize my commander's right behind us at the movies. And when he goes and gets ready to go pee in the clothes hamper, before he did it, I just burst into just hysterics.
Oh my God!
And he asked me, he said, Sergeant Goodall, I said, you seem to anticipate a lot of the funny parts of the movie. That's why I've seen it a couple of times. And also my eyes were like, where it says subscription up here.
Yeah.
They were about that. They were about that color with a green olive in the middle of it. And didn't get why. And Craig, the guy's name was Craig Ott, and we were getting ready to head back, but we knew that they were going to have because a lot of stuff can come up from the Caribbean. They have the dogs coming in, even on TDY type aircraft. So we knew that they were probably going to be dogs around our C-130. So we smoked that night, all through the night, and the next day, all his weed. Because we didn't want to bring any with us, and we were so wasted. We could have flown back to Minneapolis without an airplane. Oh, jeez! When we got in that airplane, as soon as they turned it on, and it was just that rumbling sound of the T-56s, we just went
out.
We were out. One thing I did learn, Jim, when you're in flight, don't drink alcohol. Not too much of it. It's the landing that gets you, and everything in your body expands.
Oh yeah,
all the molecules. Yeah. You can have 4. You can have 4 drinks in flight, mate. When the plane lands, you can't walk.
So, Jim, my similar story is when Star Wars came out. what was that, 76?
Yep.
Something like that. So I was 19, I guess. And we went to see, this is in Southern California, Newport Beach. And they had just finished the brand new Newport Beach Cinema. It was the first one with the THX sound system and the air conditioning. And I mean, just cushy seats. It was just awesome. So me and I think it was like 4 or 5 of us said, well, we're going to go see us some Star Wars. So we had a bag of weed, a case of beer, and a bunch of chocolate mescaline. So what we did was we smoked and drank, and we hit the mescaline before we went in. And we brought joints with us, and we thought, this is great. We're going to see Star Wars in Mesca color. And so we're sitting there, and there was hardly anybody in there, or it was just seemed really big, but there was not that many people. And we thought, well, we're 6 rows up from the screen. Let's go ahead and hit this joint. Hit the joint. The air conditioning was so good, the smoke would come up and just go, just dissipate. So we sat there, smoked this joint on mescaline, and that first opening scene where it does the credits and stuff, and we were sitting there going, holy shit, is that cool? Never seen that before. And then when that ship came over and that THX system just kicked in and we felt that thing, it was unbelievable. It was one of the most magical, like, holy shit, I've never seen like that moments in my life. It was awesome. But we saw Star Wars in Mesca color. Yeah.
Well, I did almost the same thing with 2001: A Space Odyssey.
I bet there's a few people laughing their head off now.
Yeah, I was working for Xerox in Hollywood, and I went to the Hollywood, with Cinerama, I guess it was.
The Hollywood Bowl, or
no? It was the Hollywood. It was it was one of the very first Cineramas. Where it's the big, huge screen that wraps around you.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And it was right on Vine Street. Right off.
Yeah, we call that the Omni Theater here. It's an Omni screen. Yeah, it's a big curved screen.
Yeah. We were talking about UFO equipment and stuff. I actually asked Jeff Babion to his face, all right, how much alien technology is used in Skunkworks product? And he was right back. He said, I have no knowledge. He said, it doesn't mean it wasn't built before I got here, but I have no knowledge of what we're currently working on. And the enemy has shifted. It used to be a strategic enemy. It was the bad guys of the Soviet Union, and then China, and with all the terrorists, I said the equipment you need to fight terrorists, you don't need something that can fly at 95,000 feet at Mach 4 or Mach 10. You need something that can fly over the canopy of the jungle or the desert at night with no noise and be able to track these people. So we have a different threat. Well, that has now changed again. Now it's back to a strategic enemy, couple of them, China and Russia. But I don't think Russia is the bad guy here.
I agree with that.
When I start looking at the technologies they're actually using in warfare now, these little miniature drones with explosive warheads on them,
or the one,
and they can push out 10,000 at a time out of a plane, And
they have facial recognition.
Yes, exactly.
That go right after, ignore everybody else, but we're going to go after Mr.B.
Did you guys find that? Did you find that drone and the footage of the Russian jet fighter with our drone?
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Dumping the fuel.
Yeah. I mean, I looked at that and I said, "There's some smart ass shit going down there."
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, "Oh, you're going to fly by? Well, we'll just piss on you and watch you go down."
Yeah.
That was ballsy. But so Jim, on the technology side, as far as capability, to me, like I was saying earlier, the whole notion.
Is that your dog or mine?
That's mine. It's
okay.
She's finally deciding to go outside and tell them that she knows they're there, whoever they are. But to me, the whole technology, and this gets into and for me at least, this gets into this whole concept of interdimensional or multi-dimensions and stuff, which is another alien aspect of, one of the characteristics that seem to be attributed to these very stealthy sons of bitches who apparently don't mess with you other than your mind. There might be a little probing going on here and there. Maybe that, who knows about that? But the majority of the sightings, the interactions are, they're null. There's nothing there other than somebody saw something and either got scared or intrigued or somewhere else in between. But the evidence is like so scant. So like the let me ask you this. The TRB3, I think it is, or the
TR3B, yeah.
TR3B.
I've actually seen the model of the TR3A that it's made by Teledyne Ryan. That's what the TR stands for. And it's a triangle shape, and they were flying at a remote control. It was proof of concept.
So the propulsion looks like it's electrogravitic or something.
Yeah.
It's not, it's being able to work with the energy in the ether and decide where it wants to go and how it gets there simply by kind of pointing, I guess, in a sense, is I think the way some of the physics works. But whatever that is, to me, that kind of technology isn't, why can't that tech go to the moon or Mars?
Who's saying it's not?
That's exactly right. Yeah. And, the higher you go in the atmosphere, the more there's more electricity in the air.
Well, there's a change in the construct of the ether, at least from the planet through our atmosphere. But once you're into the space called space, or the place called space, that the energetics, at least from what I've seen and understand, is it makes sense. There's frequencies that are all about, and everything is a frequency itself. And that even is what quantum mechanics is actually saying with the whole wave concept. If everything is a wave, then that means it's a frequency, and that means that it's got amplitude and longitude, and but it happens in time and space. You can't take a snapshot of a wave and say that observation says that is a wave. No, you've taken a shot of a wave in time, but the wave has since moved. It has continued because that's what it does.
Well, the new technology, they say they can create a wave, but yet you can ride it like a surfboard.
Well, yeah, and that's what I think. That's what I think the whole warp field science and physics is based on from Star Trek. Oh, which reminds me. Oh, shiny squirrel going by. We're going to toss it in. Jim, I got a question for you. Well, you mentioned, Star Trek before. We were talking about Ben Lynch you guys were talking about how the future of tech in like Star Trek.
Yeah,
we've kind of already got, or at least we're real close, right?
Right.
So, Richard Hoagland.
Yep.
Okay. So, extremely colorful, full of a shitload of information, and got an opinion about all of it, which is awesome because he's just like a Gatling gun. You pull the trigger and just stand back and let it come out and see where it goes. But one time I heard him say that his hypothesis is, the whole concept of the Council of Nine that Roddenberry was a piece of, or apparently was. So George Lucas also had that influence and that information and connection. And what George Lucas did with Star Wars was our past. And what Roddenberry did with Star Trek is our future. And I kind of thought, that kind of makes sense, because when you watch Star Wars, there's a bunch of tribal shit going on there with a bunch of laser guns.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's kind of an interesting hypothesis. Is that actually, it may not be the exact, but it's apparently based on something that happened as far as, Star Wars and Star Trek. It's like, well, if there's time travel, is Star Trek either an opinion of where the intended direction may end up in a idealistic way, or was somebody actually there and he came back and said, here's the blueprint, what it looks like?
It's probably your second item. It's probably someone came back and said, this is where we're going to be at on 2320 or whatever. And yet the other question, we've touched on it, and again, this is apropos of absolutely nothing we're talking about right this second.
Yeah, I'm sorry to throw that squirrel out there.
That's fine.
I had to grab him by the tail.
Yeah. And I have to write things down now in my advanced age because I get a thought, oh my God, I got to remember that. If I don't write it down, oh shit, I know it's here somewhere. Yeah.
Right there with you.
Yeah, like me, Jim. If you don't write it down, you've actually get this blank moment where you just kind of look.
Right. And that happens more often than not. And there's people saying, well, why aren't we seeing the aliens if they're here? We only can see a certain amount of light. Our eyes are only capable of seeing a small bit. Maybe when we're seeing ghosts or other entities that we think's a dream, maybe that's
people or whatever.
Yeah, maybe that's when when our mind is relaxed enough, and maybe you're high enough.
To me, yeah, and maybe it's just like you've just for whatever reason dialed into or stepped into that frequency.
Yeah, for just a few minutes.
Because the frequency ranges, like you're saying, that we have our own personal telemetry with sound, light, all that is very limited of what's out there.
Right. And for all we know, that maybe they're just a couple bandwidths away from either way of physical light.
Down the frequency of the street on that another bandwidth.
Yeah, and that's where they are. I mean, maybe sometimes I know I have when Rosemary was a flight attendant. She's now retired from it, but when she was flying, there were times that I knew that someone was in the house. I know there was times when someone got into the bed, and I said, I look around and I said, no, I must be dreaming that because I don't feel it. But I could hear people in the house at night when it's just me. This is before we had the dog, and this is when Rosemary wasn't here. And I wonder if it's those beings or those entities that are beyond our visual light, but they're here and they do make noise. They come in and you see doors open and you hear doors slam shut. From where? How'd that happen? I was on Bradshaw Ranch here 2 years ago, and it's supposed to be an awful lot like Skinwalker. It's outside of Sedona, and that was we got there about 11 o'clock at night. We're there till about 3 o'clock in the morning. It was about 10 or 15 of us. We all had night vision goggles. Mm-hmm. Melinda Leslie had supplied us everybody with the night vision. And it was just the eeriest place. You can't put your finger on it, but it was just, I think he just committed suicide.
I think he's taking a wee intermission.
Right. Yeah, he has to do a data dump. Yeah. Yeah.
So, do you think that those different frequency bands that we've got ours?
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of others up and down the band in multiple dimensions. So you can have different frequency sets all over the place where just whatever that set is tuned to is all it experiences, right?
Correct.
So if these other bands can kind of float around the field or the flow and just go into another band, then that will cause a disturbance, I would think, just in the transition. And it may cause a disturbance because it's still retaining its own frequency, but now it's in another band.
Well, it would be a hybrid frequency, and it may allow us under real special circumstances to become visible.
And sometimes I think, to me, I think this whole field of energy and consciousness and what I'm calling frequency physics is, I think, where we'll end up, because it's all based on frequencies, and from my understanding. But
Tesla said that too. I mean, everything.
Yeah, frequency, vibration, and energy, right?
Yeah.
So I think that what I think sometimes the expressions that we see of these paranormal, all the way through, alien and other life, or what I refer to as our cosmic cousins. I think there seems to be an inherent habit and characteristic of the universe creation and what it does as it relates to life that we would call sentient or intelligent, and that is that this humanoid form, there seems to be a regular habit of humanoid forms. They could be scaly, they could have a fish head, they could be, really bizarre, but there's a head, a torso, and legs and arms.
And they're symmetrical.
There's that regular pattern. So it seems like at least the universal reality that we're in, even if it's maybe a simulation, it's programmed, has an inherent nature. A bucket of water will fix that. Okay.
Yeah.
But there seems to be an inherent nature of this humanoid construct. So we, at a minimum, the only reality we know is the telemetry we have access to, what our senses and what bands are that we're attuned to. But all this other shit, I think a lot of the paranormal stuff is other frequencies, other bands kind of floating in and out or bouncing in and out, some intentionally, some unintentionally. It's like an automatist model or thinking where everything is like a billiard ball, right? It's just, that's the way the construct of the atomist is. So everything's got to have a small, the quanta of the quantum, the nut of the nugget. But that's not the way it is. It's a frequency. It all moves, and it's constantly moving. So it's neither a particle nor a wave. It's a frequency. And it's a frequency in a certain band of energy that then manifests what that is. We see that, we experience it with music. The sound, music is air, is frequencies moving through air.
Right.
And yet we interpret it the way we do, and it can have an effect on our own frequencies.
Well, it's strange you say that. Look, some time ago, I actually, on one of my shows, I talked about frequencies and how it can actually set a mood. I think you covered something about this too, Jim, when you talk about a certain frequency can make you poop your pants. You know what I mean? Your body resonates to what you hear. I mean, a tone of a voice can either upset you or it can make you feel happy. It depends how it's broadcasted to your ears. You pick it up, you receive it, and that's what we do. And there is a resonance, that's for sure, that controls our every mood, and you just don't know how powerful it really can be. Unfortunately, I'll say unfortunately, if you knew how to tap into it, it'd be wonderful. Well, we can live in a constant euphoria, just by putting on a set of earphones and to say, hey, I'm going to keep this positive vibe constantly going. It's.
I think
that's what I smoke cannabis for.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't.
I do it strictly for medical reasons.
I'd like to do it too, but unfortunately, my partner, my wife, I should say, should kill me, mate. Even if it's pharmaceutical.
Most people don't realize that cannabinoids. There you go. See, you're getting the good shit, then, buddy.
Got the license.
I want what you're doing.
Yeah.
But the cannabinoids, the main, what they call it cannabis, is essentially, that is also naturally produced within our own bodies. Okay, it's like all the other interesting, dopamines and the different serotonin drugs that are out there. Those are things that we naturally produce, and you take pills because you're not getting enough of it, right? Mm-hmm. Or you have an imbalance of it in one way, shape, or form. Well, cannabis is something that we normally produce in our body. The cannabinoid normally produce in our own body. So why has it been around for a millennia and been used by just about everybody for at least food and clothing, let alone the psychoactive experiences of it and the medicinal properties? It is without a doubt, in my opinion, the most incredible. It's like bee pollen. If bee pollen has all the amino acids, all of the minerals that the body needs, and it's all natural and it's really good. You mix it with honey, you're getting even more good shit.
Mm-hmm.
But cannabis is the same kind of thing. You can eat it, drink it, wear it, smoke it, wipe your ass with it,
build it.
I mean, it is the plant. It will help you. It'll calm you down. It'll stimulate you. I, for one, my reaction to, I'm a sativa, and I had an office in Amsterdam for 7 years in the 90s. So I was, way before they started thinking about it being here. Yeah, go to the Bulldog, and a Sensi seed shop was my favorite haunt. And I brought seeds back, and I grew from those seeds. And oh my God, it was amazing. But I'm a sativa guy. There's two main strains. Sativas, it's a energetic high. You go get shit done. Indica, it puts you in the couch. They call it Indicouch. So, and there's all these different hybrids and blends in between that are phenomenal.
Cincinnati. There's one called Cincinnati, isn't there?
Well, Sensi is actually the bud. It's as I understand it, it's the Sensimelia is the bud, the biological or botanical name for the bud, I think. But I remember getting Sensimelia back in or we called it Sensimelia back in the 70s. But anyway, my point is that cannabis is it's another one of those. It's a great example of how those who have been given the responsibility for making proclamations and having responsibility over the masses, being the government. That's the whole idea of a government, is to provide some kind of central agreed upon authority for stuff, and mainly to keep the peace and make sure that it works. But it's been corrupted. It's been infiltrated and infected with parasites across the board for decades. And there's lifers, and then the new ones don't even know what the fuck's going on. So the whole thing it's in a state of serious mess. And that leads to complete malfunction of the system, which is what we're seeing with all of this shit. It's like, how could you guys screw this up? Oh, didn't you do this bank thing a while before? You didn't figure it out from the last time? And you are who? The experts? Oh, okay. So what are you going to do this time? The same thing? You're starting to sound like Einstein here. Okay. You don't do the same thing over and over expecting a different outcome. That's not how logic and reason and just common sense works. So we're seeing a lot of that shit. And in just about a second, probably after I take a sip of this beer, I'm going to remember where the fuck I started from so I can get back there.
Yeah. It's strange thing, in Australia.
But I think it's Jim's fault. It was something he said.
Yeah, probably. I'll take the fall.
Strange thing in Australia, when they legalized the marijuana, the first state to legalize was the Capital Territory. That's where the Parliament House is. The police looked after themselves first.
Yep.
Right. Yep. But now there you're allowed to grow 2 plants legally. If it's, but
two plants can't do anything for you.
I know. But every other state, you can only get pharmaceutical across the counter, in tablet form. No THC in it, So basically it's got all the enzymes except for the THC. It doesn't kind of like they say, oh yeah, it does. It's one of the best in they actually treat it as an anti-inflammatory, as a painkiller.
Oh, it's more than that. I mean, it is anti-anxiety, it's anti-stress, it's anti-asthma, it's anti-spike protein and virus.
Yeah, the only people that can't take it are people that suffer with schizophrenia.
Hey, there's psilocybin and mescaline and DMT and MDMA and a whole bunch of really well-tested and proven plant medicine, and that to me is one of the great things we're about to see is the evolution and realization of plant medicine.
What does it say? The governments of the world they criminalize it. It's a natural plant, but the medication you take. I mean, yeah, they give you, oh, yeah, it's got this particular drug in it, but hey, I don't know what these drugs are. They're made in a friggin' laboratory. And then you take it, you have a side effect. Oh, don't worry, we've got another tablet to counteract your what the effects. Okay, it gives you bad acid. No worries. Oh, by the way, got to be careful. You can't be on it too long because it stuffs up your liver and your kidneys, you know, and the story goes on. We're just there to feed the pharmaceuticals, you know.
So you know, I had this thought, and I'd like to kind of produce this. Might get Doc in on it, but I thought, you know, what needs to be done is, you know how you see these pharma ads, and it starts with all of either the people that have the problem and a little example of their symptom, or a bunch of happy people, right? And they're doing all this happy shit. And you know, have you ever thought about taking Nuexa and fuckamuckets? This is good. This combination will help you with that condition that you used to take 4 pills for. Now you only take 2. And then they have all of the bullshit side effects at the end. So I'm thinking that what you need to do is take those commercials and start with the side effects.
Yeah.
So start the commercial that says, okay, this side effects will include your heart attacks, diarrhea, linky ass, you know, plus all this shit, hair falling out. Your left earlobe will grow longer than your right. I mean, it'll be some kind
your
of
dick will fall off.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, if you can get through all that, have we got something for you?
Yeah. But it will cure your hangnails.
It'll cure all the shit that ails you. But the interesting thing, and I wonder if anybody's done this, is if you took all of the pharmaceuticals, all the new drugs that treat everything from some kind of mental disorder kind of stuff, suicide, depression, and all the normal shit, but then there's all these other weird things they've come up with, and these skin conditions, and all these different things that fix your bowels, that help you urinate, that do whatever it is, whatever bodily function, and took all those drugs and said, here's all the drugs that if you took them all, this is the parts of your body they would affect, and here's all the side effects. So you say, here it is, and here's what they make for this, and I bet you could probably draw a circle and connect them all and show, and then do this would be great, and then do a stat chart on all of the common side effects.
Yeah,
right. I bet it would be like, oh, so they all got this. Oh, this has got more of those. It's just the whole concept of creating, especially with this, you know, CRISPR technologies and the things that they're doing at the micro biological level. They're manipulating genes, and they're changing shit, and they're chemically altering stuff, and that can be done. And I think, you know, to be honest, it seems like that what the stories are of our origins. Somebody already pulled this shit on us a long time ago. And you kind of go, well, okay, well, we're probably not smart enough unless we're being given the knowledge and information how to do it correctly by our friends who created us, or we're stumbling around it by ourselves and we're going to fuck that up.
Hey, you put up a question earlier on.
I'm going to have to run here in just a few minutes. So
okay, Jim.
The wife said, how long to be on? Well, an hour. Okay, now it's 2 hours and 15 minutes.
we tend to do that, don't we? We didn't. Hey, that's always a pleasure having you on, Jim. It really is.
Well, I love it. I look
this is your second home, buddy. Hey, Nick, I'll have to do up an new intro, I think, and have my pen list there, you know. Photographs of me pen list coming on, so bang, here we are.
I love that new intro. It was great.
Yeah, I'll join you. If you know, as long as I don't have any honeydew projects or whatever.
Oh, I understand that, Jim. I understand that. Hey, look, if I can't get out of you, I'll still send you a link. You'll have a seat. You know, it's a Saturday. You know, it's the set time. You know, if you don't see any emails, say, well, you know, he's not doing a show today. And if I send you a link, well, and you don't answer, well, I know you're busy, mate. So I wouldn't be offended.
Hey, Jim, before you go, if you got an extra minute,
sure.
I'd like to share this with you and tell me if you know anything about this one. I just saw it. It's the what is it? The X43. Hold on here. Yeah, I think this is it. Yep. Have you seen that? Do you see it?
No.
Hold it. There you go.
Oh yeah, that's been around for a long time.
And is that, how does that compare to the X series you worked on?
This was the it was using a scramjet. Lockheed was kicking it around for a while. I don't know, but for whatever happened, they pulled the plug on it, or it went black. One of the two.
Right.
But again, this.
I went back there. Hold on.
Yeah.
You're spoiling Jim, you know. I mean, Jim looks at all those, you'll start drooling.
Well, I thought I'd send him off with something that he'd really enjoy looking at.
Yes, I know. I'm sure he would too.
Yeah, I don't know why it keeps doing that. But yeah, I think that when I saw that, I said, well, that's a new one. It's still going back to what we were talking about with, the type of propulsion, the energy.
Right.
It's still using the current models, right?
Correct. Then the newest one is the X-59.
But the thing that gets me, Jim, I mean, if an aircraft can fly to a certain altitude, how come they can't switch over to like a different fuel tank that'll actually burn chemical fuel to get you into orbit?
They've been playing around forever for a single stage to orbit aircraft or craft.
It's only just a matter of a valve turning on and off, isn't it? Like you put in a different type of fuel with a bit of oxygen.
Well, isn't that what Elon's new rocket is supposed to be? Isn't that single stage?
No, it's actually two stage to orbit.
Oh, okay.
The single stage to orbit would be taken off like a regular airplane, or land like the space shuttle.
Actually, I've actually seen a documentary about NASA's plans for a single craft to take off like an airplane and go into orbit.
Yeah.
They had about 2 different prototypes apparently.
It's always seemed strange to me that, because especially when you watch the Marvel series and all the incredible CGI they're doing with the ships, and when they go straight in, nobody's getting having to have heat shields. They're just going right through the atmosphere, whether they're going straight through or they're gliding into it.
Yeah.
Or and to get there, they're leaving in the same way. They're just flying up till they're finally in orbit. I mean, why have we use that approach to our space program? I guess shuttle was supposed to do it, but because it had wings and it was assisted launch.
Yeah.
Why didn't we fly into space with plane models and come back as a plane model instead of using this rocket stuff?
Who says we're not?
I
That's exactly right.
I knew you were going to say that. Thanks for hitting that one out of the park.
Yeah.
But he can't tell you that.
Anything that you have seen on any science fiction movie as it relates to space and stuff like that, we've either been there or done that, or we're going to be doing it. So there isn't anything on the horizon that is going to go, oh wow, that's incredible. It's going to say, well, they finally did it.
And it's up to us to ask the right questions.
And that's one of the problems in the UFO community.
They're not asking the right questions.
Well, you may be asking the right questions, but you're not asking the right person or person.
The right people.
Right.
And they're not going to tell you who it is. I mean, there may be 5,000 people in this one department in the Pentagon, but there may be only one person or 2 people know about.
Departmentalized, exactly.
Yeah,
that's for
because
sure.
It's so classified, and he reports to a deeply buried black organization within DOD or one of the alphabets.
Anyway, Jim, listen, it's been a delight having you on today, and I think you better give your missus. Go say hello to Rosemary and give her a hug. And
I will.
Let her know you're still there. And
what makes it doubly enjoyable is having Robert on there too. So
yeah.
Oh, well, thank you.
Great guy.
This is a treat for me.
And a treat for me too.
It's just so enjoyable to have expanded conversations without anything other than, well, let's go chew on that for a few
And
minutes.
you know what? And it's nothing more enjoyable than have my own show that I can sit back and enjoy myself just listening to you guys.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. Makes my life a lot easier. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I do have to go. You have a wonderful weekend, what's left of it. And I'm going to be coming, Bob, I'm going to be coming up your neck of the woods if for no other reason to give you a visit.
I will be more than honored and available and ready to do it. Just let me know.
All right.
And there's a chance I could be down that way as well. So
I have a guest room.
Yeah, bring the weed.
Oh yeah, I'm always packing.
I don't have it. Yeah, I have it in a dish with my my grinder, and then on my thing for cleaning out my pinchy, and
you got the same setup I got.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, my daughter got me one of those steel grinders.
Yeah, that's what I have.
And years ago. And I've had that thing, and it just sits on that little. It's like a little coffee cup dish.
Yeah,
got a couple of buds in it.
I might see if I can get Science Bob on next time too. Again.
I enjoy him. He's a guy with a lot of knowledge. That's for sure.
Yeah, actually, I've got Michael Schratt on my page. I might give him a call, see if I can encourage him to come in and have a chin wag with us.
Yeah, right now, he's back in Virginia with Greer.
Right. Okay.
And Michael's like my kid, and I'm his biggest supporter. And he.
Yeah,
he was always picked on as a kid. He's not very big, smart, but he was the nerd, like I was. I was the nerd when I was in high school. I got picked on.
I like his work. I'm very impressed with his work, man.
Michael, at what he does, no one does it better than Michael Schratt. And when he goes up and gives a talk on a whole series of
well, let's put it this way, Jim. Anytime you want to invite him along with you, hey, mate, just stay.
Yeah,
it's an open door. Okay, so I'll leave that up to you, mate. Anyway, you have a great weekend. It's Sunday here, and my day's just about over. It's actually it's 12:26 here in Western Australia. So,
all right,
Sunday.
Well, Jim, as always, thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
I'll be in touch, Jim. Catch you later, buddy.
Adios.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Thank you.
See you later.
What a wonderful man, eh? Oh, mate, that's another day. We always seem to hit that 2-hour mark, don't we?
Yeah, well, I'm not keeping track other than
I stopped
here to get through it.
Actually, I stopped taking track when I got told off a couple of weeks back. Well, I don't want to be a prude, mate, but I enjoy it. I mean, it's quite. We went off a bit. I mean, we covered what we had to cover at the beginning. So, but yeah.
Well, it took a few turns of trying to connect some dots that may or may not have been related. But
right.
I mean, that's part of the fun of just having a free form conversation and seeing where the hell.
Exactly right.
I have to apologize. Squirrels run across my desk all the time.
Hey, it happens to me all the time, mate. It happens to me all the time. Anyway, Robert, I think it's time for us to go, and I think my wife would love my attention now for the rest of the day. So,
well, give her your best on our behalf.
I certainly will, mate. And thank you very much for joining us, buddy. And hey, we'll do it again. Hey,
looking forward to it.
Hey, you guys are regulars now. I mean, hey, I call it it's a drop-in center.
Who's going to drop in and what's going to happen? It's great. I love it, and I appreciate the invite and being a part of it.
Okay, much appreciated. Catch you later there, Robert.
All right. Take care, my friend.
Everyone. Okay, bye-bye now. And remember, guys, be nice, be kind, aspire to inspire each other. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Bye-bye now.